This lesson is about factoring quadratics. Our objective is I can factor quadratics. This is part 2 where we're going to look at trinomials where the leading coefficient, the number in front of the x squared, is not equal to 1. So here like we have a 5 in front of the x squared and a 3. The technique we're going to use is we're going to take and draw an x here. We're going to multiply the a times c here. Put that up in that spot. We're going to put the b down here. And in these two spots, we're going to look for two numbers that are going to multiply together to give me the a times the c. And they're going to add together to give me the b. So on this one, I'm going to take and put my x here. That's just going to help me organize the information. 5 times 6 is equal to 30. I'm going to put the 17 down here. Now I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together to give you the 30, add together to give you the 17. Those two numbers would be 15 and 2. So I'm going to put a 15x here and a 2x here. And so what I'll look at is I'm going to take that 17x and split it into these two pieces, the 15x and the 2x. So that gets split up into those two, and then I have the plus 6. Now what I'll do is I'll group these two together, and then I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor out of each part. So out of this, I'm going to take out a 5x. I'm left with an x, and then a 3. Out of these two, I can distribute out, factor out a 2. And I'm left with an x plus 3. Now this is a common factor between these two sets. I can factor out the entire parentheses as a common factor, x plus 3, and I'm left with 5x plus 2 as my second factor. What this factors into then is these two binomials. And if you think about it, think of how this process works. What we in essence did with this is we took that 17x and separated into what the double distributive property would have been if I multiply these. X times 5 is 5x squared. X times 2x is that 2x. And then 3 times 5x is the 15x. And then the 3 times 2 is the 6. So we just separated that middle 17x into the two parts that would have been the double distributive property. Let's try it again on this one. So we first of all draw our x to organize our information. I'm going to take 3 times negative 10 is negative 30. I'm going to write the 29 down here. And then I want two numbers that multiply together give me the negative 30, add together give me the 29. Well, since they're multiplying to be a negative, one's going to be negative. So I'm going to have, for this, I'm going to use a positive 30 and the negative 1 will multiply to get that, and then they'll add together to give me the 29. So I'm going to try 30x here and negative 1x over here. Now let's go ahead and separate out the 29 into these two pieces to factor by grouping. 3x squared plus 30x plus, I'm going to put plus a negative 1x because this factoring by grouping, where I group it, it's better to have a plus in the middle and then minus the 10. That way I can factor out a common factor. Now we're going to take out a 3x out of this first two, out of the group. I'm going to go ahead and leave an x here, plus taking a 3 out of there, I get a 10. Here I'm going to factor out a negative 1 out of those two. So negative 1. And then I've got x plus 10 when I take out that negative 1. Notice there's a common x plus 10 as a factor. I'm going to factor out that entire parentheses. And then I'm left with 3x minus 1 plus negative 1 is the same as minus 1. That gives me my factorization of the original by splitting up the middle two terms. So the process, set up this x, organize your work by multiplying the first and the last term in the top, list the middle one in the bottom, look for what those two multiply by. They multiply to get the negative 30, two numbers that add together give you the bottom one, and then you separate it out and do the factoring by grouping to factor the quadratic.